So Lennar is a home builder, and it looks like they announced their earnings yesterday, and their stock is. It looks like Tomas, you want to talk Meta and Google? Happy to. We will do that. So Lennar is a home builder, and I believe they're one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest home builder in the U.S. And they looks like they had weak Q2 results. So they're selling off today, and they're selling off on a day when stocks are really rebounding. Now let's take a look at the 5-day. 5-day does not look pretty, down 12%. Let's look at the 1 year. The 1 year down 6%. Wow. So they were really flourishing. I owned Lennar for some time, and I sold them. I probably sold Lennar too early because they just kept really going up. It was a surprise to see how the home builders flourished during a period of time in the real estate market when there was a lot of scarcity. I thought with COVID creating a lot of economic uncertainty, creating a lot of fear, why would people be buying a home? I mean, that's a massive commitment, right? You have you're in the US, you're making a commitment oftentimes on a 30-year loan, and buying probably the biggest purchase of your life. And people were doing it. They were buying houses. They just wanted a real estate asset, and they were buying new homes from Lennar. So their stock really flourished. So that was a mistake to sell too early. But it looks like for the past year, maybe things are catching up with Lennar. They're just not able to grow. Let's take a look at their financials and see what's going on. Mike, good to see you. Thanks for the question. CCI and Qualcomm. Let's take a look at those. I most definitely know what Qualcomm's about. I am a stockholder and continue to buy. Let's take a look at it. CCI, I'm not quite sure which one that one is, but we'll take a look at it. So here's Lennar, and we're looking at their growth rate. And you can see that they continue to grow. And look at this growth rate right after COVID. They just took off. And I think that they were able to increase their prices because there was scarcity of real estate, and people had to really pony up a big purchase price if they wanted to buy a house from Lennar, a new house. And then after, really having great successful years in 21 and 22, 23, not so much growth, 24, not so much growth. And it looks like they still had growth, 3.5%. That's really good. Now, I got out of Lennar because I thought it's just not sustainable to expect that home builders are going to continue to flourish. Real estate on the home building side, it is a little bit of a cyclical, cycle. They do well for a while, they suffer for a while, they do well for a while, and it looks like it's time for them to kind of suffer for a little bit. Maybe that buildup of inventory that I was talking about in real estate. Now Lennar has to compete with existing home sales that people are looking at. Maybe those areas are a little more desirable. Lennar tends to build in areas where there's land available, which is in suburban areas of big cities. Well, people want to be at the center of the city near their job, maybe near, where things are always happening, things that are interesting and so forth. So maybe that's what's happening. So their growth is slowing down. I'm curious to see what their quarterly looks like. See, this is probably what's driving that stock drop, is that quarterly their sales dropped 9%. And as I've mentioned before, I like looking at, revenue growth, because revenue growth tells me, are customers really liking what that company's selling? Are more customers coming to that company? And the quarterly for Lennar tells us that in that quarter, fewer customers are coming to buy a home from Lennar. And is that going to be a trend, which is going to basically mean that the revenue for the company is going to go down? It could be. And Kiter, what's up, and Kiter? Good to see you. Yeah, Micron took a huge hit. I saw that. Let's take a look at that, see what it's all about. Thanks for joining, Enkiter. And I don't know if you've seen the live streams, but your name's come up a few times because you've brought up good ideas over the last, couple weeks and couple months, frankly. So keep the ideas coming, and everybody keep the ideas coming. All right, so Lennar. So growth in the most recent quarter is the big problem. Now, home builder, curious to see a couple of things. And let me get out of the quarterly. I am the annual, so why am I not seeing the metrics I want to see? So I'm not seeing free cash flow in the just completed year, so I'd have to, I guess, dig around the investor relations page for Lennar to find that, but you can see their cash flow is really good in 23. It really was good for 4 years. Wow, looks really good. When I look at profit margin and gross margin, so here's the home building business, and you see the gross margin really dropped. So they're getting squeezed. They're beginning to get squeezed. The home builder has to buy really expensive land, put in expensive materials, pay for labor, time, cost of money, and it looks like Lennar is getting squeezed. So understandably, their stock's selling off a bit. Their stock did really well for a couple of years. It did surprise me how good the home builders did. I didn't expect that they were going to do as well as they did, but there you go. There's always an opportunity to learn something. And there's always a company out there that's going to perform well. Lennar was that company for 3-4 years. But I think the time's come where I think this industry is going to have a little bit of a tough time. Higher interest rates, we just talked about how the 10-year it went up for 2 days, but it's really, if you compare the last 5 years, the 10 years is near the high. And if we have that level of interest rates for a while, it's going to create more inventory. It's going to create more competition for Lennar, and it's going to continue this trend of them having a tough time selling their properties, probably having a discount, provide more incentives, and that margin squeeze is going to continue. So let's see how Lennar plays out. Lennar is a quality company. They're 37.5 billion in market cap, about 1-to-1 if you look at their revenue, and really low PE ratios. And reason for it is Lennar is not a stock where, in this case here, it's kind of bucking what you would expect, or what I would expect. It's more than doubled its value, which is great. But historically, it's not a space. This is not a $500 billion company. It's been around for a long time. It's the biggest one in its space. And there's a reason for it is investors don't expect that these companies establish kind of a franchise business like a Google search that just becomes so darn valuable, and it's very consistent year after year. It keeps growing. The economy really depends on it. They really want Google search. Home sales are cyclical. You have good periods, bad periods, and this is new home sales. You have periods where you have really, really tough times, like 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. These guys were just trying to survive. It was a really, really bad time for home builders. So we'll see how Lennar performs going forward.